want to share a story um, about something that happened to me a few, well, 15 years ago now. I learned some very hard lessons as a Christian. You know, I had a passion always ministry, and I really wanted that. I really wanted to preach and teach and equip and help others to be transformed into what they're called to be. And I remember at that time I went to my pastor, and good man, went to him and asked him if I could plant a church in Deer Park. And he prayed about it with me, and all the rest. And we went down to um, Deer Park, and I found a place and all the rest. And so he okayed it, and things went from there. But the thing that I've learned, it's like say if somebody says to me, "Oh, I really believe I'm called to be the Prime Minister of Australia," but they don't put the yards in to learn and grow. They just attempt to be there, or just think it's going to happen for them. It doesn't work like that. You see, for me today, if somebody said to me, being in ministry, if someone come and said, "Oh, I have a real heart to plant a church," I wouldn't just release them and say, "Yeah, go, do it." You have my blessing. Become part of the denomination. I wouldn't do that. You know what I would do? I would get around them. I would train them, raise them up, equip them, let them know about the financial sides of things, let them know about people in general, give them opportunities to preach and teach and equip and train, and watch them run ministries and all the rest. You do not just say, "Yeah, go," put somebody out there. It doesn't work like that, because you're being set up for failure. And first time I planted, now hear my heart. My pastor's a lovely man. That's where my DNA come from. Good friend of mine. But I think he released me too early into a place of, going out there only because I wanted to. Uh, some good advice, Peter, don't sell your house and all the rest. Didn't listen to any of that. And I did sell my house. But, bottom line, I was set up for failure. Not by him, but by my own ways and thinking. Because when I went and planted that thing, I lost everything. Nearly went bankrupt, lost my house, as I said, maxed out in credit cards. Everything was falling apart. I was in this house I was renting. I didn't even have the money for rent in the end. Then the washing machine was breaking down and the fridge was breaking down. So God literally stripped me of everything. And 6 months before that church plan, I remember I said to someone in a prayer meeting one day, "What would you do if God stripped you of everything? Would you still love him?" And I went through that. I had no idea about finances. You see, you got to understand, I loved Jesus with all my heart, loved God, loved all the things of God, but I had no understanding. My mind was back from the old drug crowd and drug ways. My mind then was get money, and I had thousands of dollars go through my hands, but through trafficking. But you got money back in those days, bang, it was gone. And what did I spend it on? Parties. Used to get call girls coming in. I'm not proud of these things, but that was life in those days. Used to do all sorts of things in those days. Had money, spend it, blow it. More drugs, more drink, party, ha. So you got to understand, when I come to faith, my mind still had that old drug culture mentality with finances, money, get it, spend it, blow it. No one taught me about the principles of money. So when I went through that whole church plan, I was stripped of everything, stripped of money, stripped of finances. I had creditors ringing me up, threatening me, telling me, if I don't pay this, they're going to take me to bankruptcy. I was 20 grand maxed out in credit cards. Like I said, I lost my house. I had no house, had nothing, not a brass razoo. In the end, I didn't even have a mobile phone. That's how low this place took me. And I remember one night in the midst of all of this, I was tormented in bed. And don't get me wrong, the church was moving. God was doing stuff. People were getting touched. The presence of God, the love of God was there. Had some good speakers there, all of that. But I had no idea about anything. So I remember one night I was at home, tormented about 2, 3 in the morning. I'm wide awake, saying, "Please, God, please help me, help me." Now this time, next day, a friend of mine wanted to give me a day's work just to help spend time talking with me, which was good. But I had no insurance on my car anymore, had nothing, So I remember I'm driving the car next day, doing the biggest no-no you shouldn't do, and that was looking at my mobile phone. And I've drove along the road on the freeway, and I've looked up. Next minute, what did I do? This is after I'm crying out, "Help, God, help!" I slammed my car. Now you got to remember, I'm already maxed out on credit cards, lost my house. I slammed my car into another car and pushed it into a third car. I've got no insurance. So can this get any worse? God, please help. I couldn't believe what was happening to me. But I never took my eyes off Christ, because I always knew, the Bible says he causes you to triumph through all things. No weapon formed against you will prosper. You know what the devil means for evil, God means for good. So I knew there was a process happening in my heart, as painful as this was. But when I look at the circumstances and when I went to church shut in the end, the whole lot, had nothing. Even had people from my church ask me, "Where's money?" But I never saw any of the money. That went to headquarters anyway. Not talking about the Salvos, by the way. I love the Salvos, love the Army. There's another church. But anyway, getting back to this. Once I'd come through this, broken man, nothing left, within about 2 years later, I'd say a bit longer, did you know that God restored everything and some? He gave me more back than what I had. You see, he blessed me with another house. I inherited the house. I got out of debt. All the debt was paid in full. And I learned about finances. And then I married the most beautiful girl I could ever possibly imagine, my best friend, Gail. So I learned about finances. I learned how to look after money, how to be a good steward with money, how to sow into the right things. I learned so much in that time of going through that. You see, we go through pain as Christians, but if your eyes stay on him and you allow the process, it's phenomenal what God will do in your life, what he will teach you, what he will train you, what he will equip you with. This is what happened to me. So going through that stuff, I learn about things. And then I remember, Gail and I are married now. This is probably about 6 months into marriage. I said to Gail, I want to plant a church. I really had this passion to do this at the time. And Gail said to me, well, I don't have this in my spirit. This is about 13 years ago, by the way. And Gail says, I don't have this in my spirit. But if you do, because it was still there. Ministry's always been, for me, something I've always known I was called to. So that call was still there, that purpose, that plan. And Gail saying, I don't have that in my spirit. And I'm saying, come on, Gail. She goes, if you want to do it, we will. But it's not. I don't have it. So I'm saying, come on, get excited. Anyway, I get up one morning for work, and I'm spending time with the Lord praying, and he broke me, brought me to my knees. And you know what he said? Peter, I didn't ask you to plant a church. I didn't ask you to do any of this. I want you to lay it down. I want two things from you. You know what that was? It was love God, love people. The moment I laid that down, then he began to be able to work and do the things he wanted to do and not what I had planned. And his plans were far greater anyway, because I ended up in ministry. But it wasn't the way I wanted to do it. I had to go through learning and growing and understanding. You see, if you don't allow the process, if you just want to jump from one step to another without going through the process, you'll end up in pain, going through the process anyway, but in a painful way. But because he loves us, he brings us through everything. So when you're going through stuff, when you're going through fiery trials and tribulations, think of it as a gift. It's not easy, because when you're in it, no one likes being in it. But see it as a gift. If you can see what you're going through as a gift, and you just lay everything down and trust, and keep your eyes focused on Christ and stay in the intimacy with him, he's going to bring you through and bless you, because he's got a plan far greater than you could ever imagine. You see, the greater the depth in your life, the greater platform of influence you're going to have. But you need to learn to surrender to the dealings of God. You need to understand that God is good, that he has a plan and a purpose through everything we go through. So we need to learn to trust him.